I wanted to shoot a film on film, but I didn't have a crew, just me, a script and a 16mm camera. This is how I shot a film on 16mm completely alone. In this video, you'll learn everything you need to shoot your next project on 16mm and hopefully avoid some of the mistakes I made along the way. Make sure you stick around to the end to see the biggest blunder you can make when shooting on film, how it nearly derailed the project, and how I fixed it. Shooting on film is incredibly fun. I love loading the film, hearing it run through the camera and then waiting for the results to come back from the lab. The texture, the colours, it all has this magical feel to it that you just can't quite get from digital. So when I recently bought an Arton LTR, a 16mm camera from the 70s, I knew I didn't just want to test it, I wanted to make something with it. And I wanted to use this project to improve my cinematography before working with real actors as well. But shooting on 16mm has its limitations. With a 400-foot roll, you get about 11 minutes of footage at 24 frames per second. That's a major factor when you're shooting alone, with all the back and forth between the camera you'll have to do. If my Arton only took 100-foot rolls, then that would have been even worse, and I would have had to have reloaded it about 3 times during the entire shoot. And more likely, as a result, it would have run out of film during a shot, which just adds to the problem. So if you are going to shoot alone, I absolutely recommend you get one of the 400-foot loaded cameras, like the ARRI SR2 or SR3, or the Arton LTR or XTR, similar to what I've got. Hire one, or if you know somebody, if you can rent one, which means also having a battery powered one. The spring wound cameras like a Bolex or a Krasnogorsk 3, they only run about 25 to 30 seconds, running at 24 frames per second, nowhere near enough for you to hit your mark after hitting the trigger. Though it's not impossible, it's just a bit more complicated. Because of that limitation, I needed to know exactly what I was shooting before I rolled a single frame. So I built what's called a shot list. Now, a shot list is simply a breakdown of every shot in your scene. It helps you visualize it and keep track of every shot you need. There's no right way to make a shot list, but there's some key information you should capture. For example, shot number, description, shot type, angle, and type of camera movement, to name a few. I used Google Sheets for mine because it made everything easy to just lay it out on a table. I could then reorder the shots later into a shooting order. Think of a film like a mosaic, where I had similarities like lighting and location. I shot them all back to back in reality, and then reordered them in post. It meant that on the second night, I'd shot the ending of my film before I actually shot the middle. That's nothing unique to shooting on film, it's just how movies are made in general. Next comes one of the most important parts of shooting on film: rehearsal. If you're shooting digitally, you can just rehearse as you go. You can run a take, play it back, and see what you got. You can even try different things to see how it works. With film though, you don't get that luxury. You won't know what you've captured until it comes back from the lab, usually days later. So you need to remove as many variables as possible. For me, that meant testing many of my lighting setups beforehand. There were specific details that I wanted, like the moonlight on the back wall in the bedroom, the harsh shadows coming through the stair spindles on that Dutch angle. I tested everything using a Canon 2000D. I matched the exposure and the aperture to closely match the film stock and the Arton lens I was using as close as possible. That way, I had a pretty good idea of what I was going to get before I even started rolling. So, once everything was planned, it was time to start shooting. And since it was just me, I didn't need a formal schedule. I just planned what I could realistically get done in a night and got to work. And this is where things got tedious. I had to set up the lights, position the camera, frame the shot, check the focus, and the aperture all by myself before I could even start rehearsing the action. When I did rehearse the action, I even rehearsed turning the camera on and off just to make that gap as efficient as possible. Take these 3 shots for example. They took me most of the night to complete because the lighting setup alone took nearly 2 hours to do. Most of this is down to lack of experience, but I actually learnt a lot. This is probably why most DPs would have an idea of how to light a shot during location scouting. A nice tip for you, so you don't forget anything when framing using film: set focus, which usually means zooming all the way in, setting the focus and then zooming back out, then frame the shot, set the aperture, lock off the camera, and then cover the eyepiece to prevent any light leaks. If you want me to break down why this order works, or what each point means in more detail, let me know in the comments and I'll make a video about it in the future. Now for the big one. The biggest mistake I made on the entire shoot. In fact, probably one of the biggest mistakes any filmmaker could ever make when shooting on film. I loaded the film wrong. I didn't give enough size to the loop and it slipped. The camera started making this ticking sound as the film was going through, which basically meant it was being pulled through the gate when it should have been stationary. And as a result, it started streaking the footage like this. With a 400-foot roll, everything has to be handled in complete darkness, and so fixing it would have been tricky. Luckily, I managed to do it without opening the mag, and it worked okay for the rest of the shoot-ish. But what I was left with was a shot that didn't fit. Unless I wanted an awkward jump cut, I had no wide coverage or insert shots that I could use to cover it up with. So what was the fix? I actually just used the damaged footage in the film. I leaned into it. The flicker became part of the story. Almost like something unnatural was going on inside the house. I used it like an insert to join the 2 shots together. And honestly, it worked. Nobody's questioned the flicker, they just enjoyed the film. There was a couple of other things that went wrong as well. I mean, at one point I blocked my movement based solely on a technical requirement, which was the door slamming. And I completely forgot to check where I was in relation to the frame, so I ended up half off the screen. Continuity wise, which is a really important thing by the way, you should always have somebody who can keep an eye on continuity between shots. When you try to do it all yourself, it's easy to forget things. And for me, this came in the form of leaving my slippers on the last shot of the roll. So there were no retakes at this point. So far, no one's mentioned it, thankfully. To sum up, shooting on 16mm is incredibly fun. And because you have to think more about each shot, you actually end up with less footage in post-production, which saves you time. Planning is everything. Use shot lists and storyboards to help visualize your film before you get on set. Use a digital camera to test your lighting. It removes so much of the guesswork and it keeps you from relying entirely on a light meter. Although I would still advise mastering the light meter would be the ideal goal. And always rehearse with your actors beforehand, or yourself, so everyone can hit the marks before you roll. So, before you go, check out the film to see how it all came together. I'll put the link to the video in the description. Hit me up in the comments if you have any questions about 16mm filmmaking in general, or maybe you would like me to make a film on the Arton, just let me know. And if you enjoyed this, please make sure to subscribe. I've already got another project in pre-production, and this time it's going to have actual actors and an actual crew, and I'd love to bring you along on the journey. Anyway, thanks for watching and see you next time.